I've told you many times, I see loads and loads of stupid acts on the roads throughout my travels. People doing the most inane of things, and you wonder how they're not dead or anybody else. I even saw somebody this morning decided to get right up my backside at probably 30 miles an hour quicker than I was going, flashing his hood up, and suddenly swerving in front of me, nearly taking off the front of my car. I have the dash cam footage, by the way, both front and rear, if anyone's interested. Well. What I don't get is the punishment for these acts. Where's the deterrent? There isn't really one, and it keeps going. I'll tell you a story now, and by God, it's a real doozy. How do everybody? Welcome back to the channel for a Monday, I think. Yeah, beginning of the week. Be the weekend again before we know it. Hope you're doing all right. I've not long got back from work and had a bit of a close encounter with a red pillock in a red car driving stupidly, and he's probably wrapped round a lamppost by now. But it begs the question: what about the accountability? Where is the deterrent for this stupidness? I mean, have a look at this headline. Yes, uninsured driver accused of causing man's death in a crash on the A2 is cleared of all charges after claiming he was possessed by evil jinn spirit. Well, that excuse is akin to the dog ate my homework, don't you think? Jeez. It's like saying I was driving the car, but no, I wasn't really. I wasn't here in spirit. Somebody else was and took control of my... Oh, let's have a look, shall we? Right, Shavan Sabahan, if I said his name right, pardon me if I don't, I couldn't give two fucks either way, lost control of his car and hit a central reservation in 2020. 26 years old and uninsured to drive this car, and he'd been told by the doctor, don't drive. He didn't give evidence in court at the hearing, but was heard to say that he had been with a jinn, or jinn. Sounds like have a bowl, doesn't it? It's an Arabic word meaning spirit, and he'd not driven on purpose. Also, it was somebody else, was it? The cat did eat your homework. He was acquitted of causing the death of one Mr. Maddox by either careless driving or driving without insurance. How can you be cleared when you're guilty of both? The law is backwards. It really is. Yes, he was accused of causing a man's death in a fatal crash on the A2. I vaguely remember something about this nearer the time. He's been cleared of all charges after claiming he was possessed by an evil spirit. Yes, it's called stupidity. Chauvin Subahan lost control of his car, hit the central reservation on a straight stretch of motorway near Dartford in 2020. He'd been at home with his pregnant wife when he smoked some cannabis. He had no intention of driving, and the next thing he remembers was being held down at the side of the road. He told the police, okay, sounds to me like you had a joint, got stoned out your tits and decided you were going to go driving. Okay. Mr. Sobahan, who did not give evidence, said he'd been with a jinn, an Arabic word meaning spirit. No, there was no spirit about this. I think cannabis, yeah. And the word, this is where the word genie comes from. And he'd not driven on purpose. A jury at Maidstone Crown Court heard how 25 minutes later a post office van ploughed into a lorry which was shielding Mr. Sobahan's stranded vehicle. At the wheel of this was John Maddox, who was using a banking app on his mobile phone as he failed to take evasive action. It gets better, doesn't it? He drove his van straight into the back of the lorry at an estimated 56 mile an hour, the court heard. As you well know, long-term followers of my channel, I was involved in a road traffic accident myself, and by God, it happened so fast. Now, Mr. Sobahan from Edmonton, North London, has been acquitted of causing Mr. Maddox's death by either careless driving or driving without insurance. Tim Forster, prosecuting, told the court the first collision was about 4 a.m. Mr. Sobahan was driving his Citroen C4 when he crashed into the central reservation just by Dartford. He was in the coastbound lane and was a 40-minute drive from where he lived. So he didn't mean to drive for a whole 40 minutes because the spirit told him. And because his car was there in the central reservation, another guy ended up ploughing into a lorry which was shielding him, and he ended up... It's a chain of events, you know. The prosecutor said other motorists arrived and stopped their vehicles to shield the stranded car. Carl Foster pulled over and found Mr. Soberhand sitting in his car in a state of shock. The prosecutor said Mr. Soberhand's behaviour was bizarre, speaking incoherently. Yes, and he had to be stopped from walking back into the road. I wonder if the gin told him that. He was uninsured to drive the Citroen and been told by his doctor not to drive because his medicine made him drowsy. Mr. Forster told the jury that a lorry driver then stopped his vehicle in the way, so it was also shielding the crash car with his lights blazing. And he also pumped the brake pedals so the red lights were born oncoming traffic. Although traffic had to slow down, 25 minutes had passed, and Mr. Maddox's post office van drove straight into the back of the lorry at an estimated nearly 60 miles an hour. A witness said that Mr. Maddox's vehicle appeared to take no evasive action whatsoever, and he was almost certainly using a mobile phone at the time. And the jury apparently actually took less than an hour before returning not guilty verdicts. Now, let's break this down. Car 1 drives into the central reservation, obviously loses control. There's some medication issues here, obviously been on the old manger. Lost control of his car, incoherent. Lorry goes to block the view off. I've seen that happening with my own eyes. Car 2, another driver, no due care and attention, smack, killed instantly. The whole chain of events being caused by car 1, and I don't get it. I've been in this situation myself. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll be interested in your feedback. Anyway, I'm off to loo.